Why recognise a Palestinian state now?
We've taken a step to recognise a Palestinian state because we want to keep hope alive for a two-state solution. We can all see the scenes in Gaza, in the West Bank, the horror for the hostage families. We need a better answer, and that is a two-state solution, and that's why we've taken this step now.
And the two-state solution has been Labour policy for quite a long time. So again, why now? If you believe in a two-state solution, you have to recognise both states to achieve that anyway. So you could argue it's taken too long.
Well, we had always hoped that there would be a proper negotiation between the Israelis and the Palestinians. As that negotiation has got further and further away in the face of violence, both in Gaza and in the West Bank, in the face of a conflict which is dragging on and on, we are taking this step today because a two-state solution is in peril and we need to keep hope alive.
Well, perhaps we should be clear with the language. It's not between Israelis and Palestinians. It's the Israeli government and Hamas, and neither represent all of their people either. What we do know is that Hamas does not believe in the existence of an Israeli state, and Benjamin Netanyahu, in response, has said there will never be a Palestinian state. It's not going to happen with those two parties running the show, is it?
That's exactly why I said Israelis and Palestinians. Clearly, there are extremes on both sides who believe in one state from the river to the sea. You hear it from Hamas, and you hear it from some extremists on the Israeli side as well. That will never work. That cannot work. There are millions of people in that land that must live side by side. There are people on both sides who are committed. For example, the president of the Palestinian Authority has agreed a Palestinian state should be demilitarized. No army, no air force. It should pose no threat to the Israelis, but with whom it should live in peace. That is the vision that we want to see advanced.
We see hundreds more people being killed. I think it was 70 people killed just yesterday in Gaza as the IDF, the Israel Defense Forces, continues with its assault on Gaza City. Do you think military action can ever fully eradicate a political ideology?
This country has had extensive experience with terrorism. I used to be the head of the terrorism response team in the Foreign Office. In the end, the full defeat of Hamas is a moderate alternative. It is a Palestinian state which can live side by side with Israel. In July, I was very proud to be in New York negotiating with our partners, including all 22 members of the Arab League. They agreed the future in Gaza can have no role for Hamas and they must be disarmed. This is how you defeat terrorism, with politics.
Yeah, with politics. But at the moment, we've got Israel carrying on militarily, violence being meted out to, it has to be said, innocents living in Gaza as well. Arguably, they're going to create more of a problem for the future. There'll be more radicalism in response to this action rather than less. Is that a concern of yours?
That is a concern. I have been in the House of Commons week in, week out, condemning what is happening in Gaza.
Yeah.
The latest operation in Gaza City is, for all of the reasons you say, very unlikely to bring the results that the Israeli government want. I speak to hostage families regularly, and I know how concerned they are too about what this will mean for their loved ones.
You mentioned being in the House of Commons. Is this decision more to do with the House of Commons than anywhere else? More to do with that large number of Labour MPs who wanted this recognition to happen than anyone else?
Let me tell you, when I'm in the House of Commons, there was concern right across the chamber from Conservatives. The father of the House is a Conservative with whom I don't agree on very much, but even he has called for recognition of a Palestinian state. It's a Liberal Democrat demand, it's a demand of the Nationalists, and of course many, many Labour MPs care about this too. This is not just an issue contained in my party.
But the fact is that there were stipulations attached to the possibility of this happening that Israel have consummately ignored. It makes you think that the UK government has no sway over anything the Israeli government does.
Well, we have not acted alone. We've acted with Canada, Australia, France, I expect will act as well.
Yeah. And Israel has changed nothing.
Well, Israel is resisting the steps that we think it needs to take to get a ceasefire in Gaza, to get the hostages home, and to be able to live in peace side by side with the community that live alongside them, whether they like it or not. So we will continue in our demands, we'll continue pressing this on the Israelis, and we'll do so in good company. More than 100 states have recognised Palestine. 4 or 5 permanent members of the Security Council will have done so by the end of the week.
What some of the Israeli hostage families are upset about is you haven't adequately recognised their plight in this. You haven't recognised the situation with the hostages in this. They don't feel that they're a focal point at all.
I've met the hostages many times, the hostage families many times. I used to be a hostage negotiator. There is no agony greater than the terrible, hellish roller coaster that they have been on over this period. My thoughts go out to them completely. They have a range of views amongst the families. I think they can all see that the most likely route for their loved ones to come home is a deal. And that is what we're pressing on the Israeli government.
In his statement online yesterday, there was very little mention of that from the Prime Minister. Why not?
I think that's not fair. I've met hostage families with the Prime Minister. It's very much on his mind. He's got extended family in Israel. He understands just how agonising this is. He's written an op-ed in the Israeli media where he talks about his understanding of that anguish, and I know that he feels it.
How many licences still exist for British companies to supply arms or material for arms to Israel?
Let me be really clear about the licences. We are providing no bombs, no bullets that could be used in Gaza. There are other
materials that can be used in military hardware.
Well, in military hardware, there is some military hardware we would continue to provide to Israel for things which reflect our policy. So, for example, the Iron Dome requires components. That cannot be used in Gaza, can't be used in the West Bank. It's just about protecting civilians in Israel from potential attacks from Iran and others. But that is part of our policy. We do not want to see innocent civilians being hit. We continue to provide things like body armour for NGOs who go into Gaza. Where we provide licences, we do it for aims that we support. That does not include the conduct of this operation in Gaza.
The point is, though, if recognising a Palestinian state is largely symbolic, there is a symbolic element to not having those licences, isn't there? That would send a message too, if they were rescinded, if nothing was being supplied to Israel.
We have suspended a huge number of licences where those weapons could have been used in Gaza or the West Bank. That was real practical action because of the depths of our concern about compliance with international humanitarian law. Where we are providing components which can help protect lives, whether it's NGO workers in Gaza or civilians in Israel, we will continue to provide that material.
Listen, just to finish off, there is a very real possibility that what the UK government is not going to make anything materially better. It could actually make it worse. Suggestions Israel is going to push forward with annexing the West Bank, which is, of course, where a lot of Palestinians live, in response to this recognition by the UK, by France, by Canada, of a Palestinian state. Things could get worse in the West Bank as a result, not better.
Things are already getting worse in the West Bank, and I would say to the Israeli government, they should think very carefully indeed before they take any further steps in the West Bank. There's already been a huge expansion of violent settlement in the West Bank.
Listen, I've got to say, they're not listening. They're not listening to the UK government. The only body they are listening to is the United States government, and it's Donald Trump. Surely Keir Starmer, in his meetings at Chequers last week, made that point clear, that the US is the solution to this.
The Prime Minister did have discussions with President Trump in private about this, and you saw some of their discussion about that afterwards in the press conference.
Yeah, they continue to disagree. I think that was what the
disagree
President said.
On the question of recognition. There's no doubt about that. But they agree this needs to be brought to an end. The conflict must end. Dignity must be restored for Palestinians and Israelis. I understand President Trump will be having meetings in the US over the course of the next week, including with key partners on these questions, and we will be supporting every effort to get to a pathway to peace.